Then the king of Egypt commanded the Hebrew midwives, "When you serve as midwife to the Hebrew women and set them on the birth stool, if it is a son, you shall kill him. And if it is a daughter, she shall live." But the Hebrew midwives feared God, and they did not do as the king commanded. Now there was a man of the house of Levi who took as a wife a Levite woman, and she conceived and gave birth to a son. And when she saw that he was a fine child, she hid him for 3 months. But when she could hide him no longer, she took for him a basket made of bulrushes, and she dabbed it with bitumen and pitch. She put the child in it and placed it among the reeds by the river. And his sister stood at a distance to see what might be done to him. Now the daughter of Pharaoh came down to bathe at the river, while her young women walked beside the river. And she saw the basket among the reeds and sent her servant woman, and she took it. And when she opened it, she saw the child. And behold, the child was crying. And she was filled with pity and said, "This is one of the Hebrew children." And his sister said to the daughter of Pharaoh, "Shall I go and call a nurse from among the Hebrew women to nurse the child for you?" And the daughter of Pharaoh said, "Go." So the girl went and called the child's mother. And the daughter of Pharaoh said to her, "Take away this child and nurse him for me, and I shall give you your wages." And so the woman took the child and nursed him. And when he had grown, she brought him to the daughter of Pharaoh, who took him as her son. And she called his name Moses, because, she said, "I drew him out of the water." Now when Moses had grown up, one day he went out to his people in order to look upon their burdens, and he saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew man, one of his people. And he looked this way and that, and seeing no one, he struck down the Egyptian and hit him in the sand. When he went out the next day, he saw 2 Hebrew men struggling together. And when he said to the man in the wrong, Why do you strike your brother?" The man answered him and said, "Who made you a prince or a judge over us? Do you mean to do to me as you did to the Egyptian?" And Moses was afraid, for he thought this thing had become known. When Pharaoh heard of it, he sought to kill Moses. But Moses fled from Pharaoh and went and dwelt in the land of Midian. And Moses was tending the flocks of his father-in-law Jethro, a priest of Midian. And he led the flocks to the west of the wilderness, to Horeb, the mountain of God. And the angel of the Lord appeared there to him in a flame out of the midst of a bush. And he looked, and behold, the bush was burning, but it was not consumed. So Moses said, I shall turn aside and see this great sight, why the bush is not burned." And when the Lord saw that Moses had turned aside, he called out to Moses from the midst of the bush, "Moses, Moses." And he said, "Here I am." And he said, "Do not come any closer. Take the sandals from off your feet, for the place where you are standing is holy ground. I am the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob." And Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look at God. And the Lord said, "Surely I have seen the affliction of my people, and I have heard their cry because of their taskmasters. I know their suffering, and I have come down to deliver them from the hand of the Egyptians, and to bring them out of that land to a good and broad land flowing with milk and honey. Come, Now you will go to Pharaoh and bring my people, the children of Israel, out of the land of Egypt. But Moses said, who am I that I should bring the children of Israel out of Egypt? The Lord said, but I will be with you, and this shall be a sign that I have sent you. When you have brought the people out of Egypt, you shall worship God on this mountain. And Moses said, behold, if I say to the people that the God of your fathers has appeared to me, and they say, well, what is his name? What shall I say to them? God said to Moses, I am who I am. This you shall say to the children of Israel, I am has sent me to you. And God also said to Moses, this you shall say to the children of Israel, the Lord, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, has sent me to you. This is my name forever. Thus I shall be remembered throughout all generations. But Moses said, but behold, they will not believe me or listen to my voice. And God said to Moses, what is that in your hand? And he said, a staff. And he said, throw it upon the ground. So he threw it on the ground, and it became a serpent, and Moses ran from it. But God said to Moses, put out your hand, catch it by the tail. So he put out his hand and caught it, and it became a staff in his hand. That they may know that the God of their fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, has appeared to you. God also said to Moses, take your hand and put it inside your cloak. So he put it inside his cloak, and when he took it out, behold, it was leprous, like snow. And God said to him, put your hand back inside your cloak. And he put it back in his cloak, and when he took it out, behold, it was restored like the rest of his flesh. If they will not believe you, God said, and if they will not listen to the first sign, perhaps they shall believe the latter. And if they will not believe these two signs, then you shall take water, which is in the Nile, and pour it out on the dry ground. And the water which you take from the Nile and pour out on the dry ground will become blood on the dry ground. But Moses said, oh, my Lord, I'm not eloquent. Not in the past, nor since you have spoken to your servant. I'm slow of speech and of tongue. And the Lord said, who made man's mouth? Who is it who makes man mute or deaf or blind or seeing? Is it not I, the Lord? I will be with your mouth, and I shall teach you what you shall speak. And he said, oh, my Lord, send someone else, please. Now the anger of the Lord was kindled against Moses. And he said, is there not Aaron, your brother, the Levite? I know that he can speak well. Behold, he is coming out to meet you, and when he sees you, he will be glad in his heart, and you will speak to him and put these words in his mouth, and he will speak to the people for you. I will be with your mouth, and I will be at his mouth, and I will teach you both what you shall do. He shall speak to the people for you, and he shall be your mouth, and you shall be as God to him. And Moses and Aaron went together to Egypt and gathered together all the elders of the people of Israel. And Aaron told them all of the words that the Lord had spoken to Moses and did the signs in the sight of the people. And they believed And when they heard that the Lord had visited his people and saw their afflictions, they bowed their heads in worship.